Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we are continuing to read from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, the nature, the enjoyer of the consciousness. We are about to begin the 20th verse today. And just a very quick recap. So far we have discussed on the topics of the Kshetra, the field of activities, Kshetrajna. There are two Kshetrajnas, the soul and the super soul. And then the Jnana, what is knowledge? So one who is aware of the Kshetra, the Kshetrajna, and how the Kshetrajna, the Pradhana Kshetrajna, which is the super soul, who is actually in control of the Kshetra and the other Kshetrajna, which is the soul. Then we discussed, so this is knowledge, to know clearly the difference between the two, and also how the super soul is in control of the Kshetra and the Kshetrajna. That is the knowledge. Now, how to acquire this knowledge? What is the process of acquiring this knowledge? Only a devotee knows this clear difference. So how to become such a person to be in this consciousness of proper understanding? So Krishna details about that knowledge between the verses 8 to 12, beginning with Amanitvam, Adambitvam, and then up to the Tattva Jnanartha Darshan, so like that. So then, after discussing about that, Krishna is speaking about what is meant by Jnayam. So we already, what is Jnana is discussed, and what is Jnana and then Jnaya. What other points were discussed yesterday? Oh yeah, yesterday we also spoke about Jnana, Jnayam, and Jnana Gamyam. Jnana Gamyam means, so you have Jnana, you have the knowledge, and then you have Jnaya, what is the goal of the knowledge, and then how to go to that, how to attain that goal. Or Jnaya can also mean object of the knowledge. How to attain that knowledge, how to go. Gamya means go. So how do you, so where do you go with the knowledge? You have the knowledge, where do you go with the knowledge? So what do you think? Where do we go with all this knowledge? Where do we want to go? Back home, back to God, to the lotus feet of Krishna. So Krishna has to be known. That is the whole point, isn't it? So Jnanam, Jnayam, Jnana Gamyam. Krishna, we will just see that before we continue, just to remind all of you. This is what Krishna says in yesterday's verse. Iti Kshetram Tata Jnanam Jnayam Choktam Samasatah Madbhaktad Etad Vignaya Madbhavo Upapadyate. So only my devotee knows this, he says, and then the previous verse he speaks about that. Yes. Jnanam Jnayam Jnana Gamyam. This is Sarvasya Mishtitam. So Jnanam, Srila Prabhupada translates it as knowledge, and Jnayam is what is to be known, and Jnana Gamyam, to be approached by knowledge. So elsewhere also we can say knowledge, and then what is the object of the knowledge? That is Jnayam. And then Jnana Gamyam refers to what is to be approached by that knowledge, or the goal of knowledge also we can say. So remember these three terms. Jnana means knowledge, then Jnayam means the object of the knowledge, and Jnana Gamyam means the goal of the knowledge. This is the whole point. And the Mayavadis, what they say, and then at one point of time, everything becomes one. No, I mean, yes, Jnanam, by knowledge Krishna has to be known, and Jnayam, Krishna is only giving the process also, how to know him, and then the object is also Krishna, and then Krishna has to be approached. But there are differences also, now that everything becomes merged into one. This is Prabhupada discusses about that. So these are all the things that topics we discussed so far. Now today we will, so far the Kshetra is being discussed, Kshetrajna also is discussed, and Jnaya is discussed, and so what is left? What are the topics left? Arjuna's questions. Prakriti and Purusha, yes. So we will discuss that. Okay. So by that we know what are the 6 questions Arjuna asked. So Arjuna is asked about Kshetra, Kshetrajna, then Jnaya, Jnana, then Purusha and Prakriti, yes. Okay, text 20. Prakriting Purusham Chaiva Vidyanadi Ubhavapi Vikarangscha Gunangschaiva Vidhi Prakriti Sambhavan. Material nature and the living entity should be understood to be beginningless. Their transformations and the modes of matter are products of material nature. So Krishna here says, Prakriti Purusham Cha Eva. Prakriti and Purusha Vidyanadi Ubhavapi. Vidya means you should know, you must know. Anadi Ubhava. Anadi means it is beginningless. There is no, you cannot trace out the beginning of when the Prakriti began, when the Purusha, when it started. We cannot. And then Vikarangscha Gunangschaiva Vidhi Prakriti Sambhavan. He says Vikara, the transformations that is happening in the Prakriti, and which is done with the 3 modes. And these are all the effect of the material nature. The transformations and the modes of nature, matter, are products of material nature. So this is what Krishna says. Now, Sri Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur is pointing out, so far, the previous, in the Jnana Gamyam series of those verses, the Jnaya series of verses, what was the, we spoke that Jnana, then Jnaya, knowledge, object of knowledge, and then the goal of knowledge. Now you tell me in simple terms, what is the goal of knowledge? Just what, from whatever 6 verses we read, what is the goal of knowledge? There is an important discussion in the entire thread of verses, entire stream of verses, 6 verses. What is the important subject matter that was discussed? Which is the goal of knowledge? Thank you. Super soul, right? That is the point. Krishna first begins with soul and then he speaks about the super soul. So that is the goal of knowledge. Now, you see here what Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur is pointing out. You have described the Paramatma as the knower of the field. But speaking of the Jiva who is also the knower of the field, how does the Jiva come in contact with Maya? When did it start? It's a very important question. That's why Krishna is discussing this. When did we get devolved? What happened to us? How did we get devolved? Okay. Now same thing here. Baladev Vidyabhushan Prabhu, he is pointing out. The association of the Jiva and Prakriti, both of which are without beginning, but which we have differing natures, has no beginning in time. Now, differing functions of the Prakriti and the Jiva in combination, and the cause of their beginningless association will be described. So, next 3-4 verses, let's say 3 verses, 20, 21, 22, very much discusses this, the Purusha and Prakriti. So, what is the cause of suffering? Why are we, is there reincarnation? Are we going to be born again? Is there any, is it true? Of course, for those who are studying Bhagavad Gita, there is no question of this, there is no question of asking this. There is no point in asking whether there is reincarnation. Already it is being discussed in the 2nd chapter. But anyway, these are all some of the very pertinent questions in the modern days. People want to know what is, everybody have different worldview about reincarnation. How many of the people believe? Nobody believes. As I was speaking 2 days back, and I was speaking about that Carnatic musician, a very excellent musician. So many songs which speaks about the Jiva by rendering service goes to the spiritual abode, or sometimes they even go to the Swarga, and all those things are there in some songs. But when he's explaining the song, he's speaking like this. This is how the narrator or the author, this person who composed the song is speaking. I'm not sure whether there's any place or like that, but this is what he says. And some of the songs are devotional songs he's singing. You see, that's the point, why we have to hear from. They may be very good. He has amazing voice. He can sing all the 84 lakhs of ragas and amazing alankars, everything he can do. But the main point, goal of knowledge, that is not there. There's no faith. So that's why everything is an entertainment for people. Okay, let's come back to this point. So why I was speaking this is because many people, they don't accept reincarnation. They don't accept that there is another world where after death we may go there. No such faith. But now let's discuss that. Krishna very clearly speaks about this. And when we have this knowledge, when we have very clearly know the position of Kshetrajna, and how when we are in the association of the modes, how we will be bewildered, how we will be carried away, and how we degrade ourselves. In the next few chapters, there will a lot of discussions will happen about this, about the three modes, the effect of the three modes on us. And then not only that, just be discussing about the effect of the three modes and how we are being pulled down by the association. Definitely we need to know about that. Then unless we know about it, we are not going to take serious steps in our life. We may take everything very light, or we may think the greatest misconception that we have, this material world is a place of enjoyment. Let me enjoy. That's what we will think. But Krishna, with all these important instructions, he's Uttishta, Jagrata Prapya, Varannibodha. Wake up, sleeping soul. What are you doing? So many millions of lifetimes you have wasted. This lifetime you wake up and then surrender. Krishna is pushing us to surrender. So now this knowledge, what is the point another point that I wanted to discuss is that Krishna not only speaks about the nature of this material world and how we are being covered by the three modes, he also gives a solution for it. Remember in the Bhagavatam, when the Kumaras, they were discussing, what is it that is, that when we see an object for enjoyment, immediately the senses are attracted to that. It appears like there is an interconnection, strong connection. How to get out, how to come out of that attraction. So this kind of the discussion that is happening between the Kumaras, and when they asked Brahma was also thinking, what to do, how to come out of it. It's power, attraction is very powerful. And then they were just discussing like that, and then the Lord appeared as Hansa. And then the Lord, this amazing discussion that goes on that then he's saying that, hey, you all forgot me, I am there. The point is that when you come and take shelter of my lotus feet, this attraction, spontaneous attraction, appears like this is reality, you will come out of that. So I'm just relating this to make the point that Krishna is so concerned about us. He shows what is the problem of this material world, how we are being put into suffering, and then also he is concerned and he gives the solution that simply by engaging in devotional service you can come out of it. In fact, this entire chapter is all about this discussion. Kshetrajna, then proper knowledge. Then with all this knowledge, ultimately you have to jnana gamyam, you have to approach the Supreme Lord. That is why our entire discussion, all these big technical terms, everything is meant to drive us to take shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. Okay, we will now discuss further. Okay, Prabhupada points out in the purport, by the knowledge given in this chapter, one can understand the body or the noise of the body. The body is the field of activity and is composed of material nature. The individual soul that is embodied and enjoying the activities of the body is the Purusha or the living entity. Now Prabhupada goes on to explain further, the living entity is in the category of his energy and the super soul is in the category of his personal expansion. So there is Swamsa and Vibhinamsa. So we are separated energies of the Lord, and the Lord Krishna expands himself into the three various Purusha incarnations, and then he is also expanding as Paramatma. So that's a separate category, and we are separated energies. Okay. The super soul, category of his personal expansion, and we are the category of his energy. So both material nature and the living entity are eternal. That is to say that they existed before the creation. So this we have heard. So both the material nature is also eternal. How Pradhana, in its unmanifested, it is also eternal. And then when there is a need for creation, then the Lord, by the glancing of the Lord, the agitation happens and further creation happens. So two things, the material nature is eternal, and then the Jiva is also eternal. At the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, when we were discussing, we spoke about it, There are 5 subject matters of the Bhagavad Gita. What are those? Yeah, Ishvara, Prakriti, Kala, Karma. Yes, Ishvara also, yeah, 5. Now, of these 5, which are eternal? Yes. So, karma is not eternal. Everything else is eternal. Material nature is also eternal. How it is eternal? The world is destroyed. So that's what we said. At the beginning, we see that is the pradhana is there. It's always in its avyakta form. It is there. So, karma, that is not eternal. Our karma can be cut off, even destroyed. Anadi karma, when it started, nobody knows. But we can put an end to the karma. That is possible by engaging in devotional service. Okay. So, now these are the 2 subject matters we saw now. The living entity and the material nature are eternal. Okay. Now, here in this purport, Prabhupada is pointing out the mystery of the material creation. Why the material creation, how it happens, why it happens. The material manifestation is from the energy of the Supreme Lord, and so also are the living entities. But the living entities are of the superior energy. Both the living entities and material nature existed before this cosmos was manifested. Material nature was absorbed in the Supreme Personality of God and Mahavishnu, and when it was required, it was manifested by the agency of the Mahatattva. But with the coming forth of the material nature, these living entities are again given a chance to act in the material world and prepare themselves to enter the spiritual world. That is the mystery of this material creation. Why there is a creation? Why the world exists? Simply for us to enjoy, isn't it? That is the worldview of all the modern people. World is created for our own enjoyment. But is that what the Bhagavad Gita says? No. The world is created is a place that is meant to help us to enter the spiritual world. It's a temporary place. It's not our permanent place. That's why we don't spend our energy trying to make it a world of perfect place or make it a permanent place to stay forever. Neither we are permanent, where we will be permanently in this body, nor this material world will exist forever. Everything will be destroyed. So here Prabhupada is also pointing out that before the creation, where we were all in the body of Mahavishnu. The material nature, with all the ingredients, everything was in the body of Mahavishnu. And then the Jiva also is in the body of Mahavishnu. Then, and according to our karma, whatever is our desire, according to our desire, what happens? We are all getting. Now, who is arranging the body for us? Prakriti is making all the arrangements. So, who is in charge of the Prakriti? Durga Devi. So, Durga Devi, what she does? So, we will discuss more about this in the next chapter as well. So, by the power of so Shiva, he brings forth all the jivas. So, and then Durga, what she is doing? She is providing all the ingredients for the body. All the ingredients. She is in charge of this material world. She is providing all the bodies. Then Brahma, what is he doing? What is Brahma's role? Brahma is the designer. He is giving all the prototypes. So what is happening? He says, I want to sleep for a long time. I want to be eternally sleeping. In the sense that eternally sleeping means somebody who likes to sleep all the time sleeping. So he's actually wants to. So the Lord gives him the body of a bear. So now the request is there. Oh, this jiva he wants to become a bear. So Durga Devi, she's providing all the ingredients for that. And then what Brahma does? Brahma, he has got 84 lakh species of prototypes. All the prototypes are ready. Oh, want the body of a bear? Okay, here it is. And okay, even to become a bear, do you have the sufficient karma? So if you have sufficient karma, you can get the body of a bear. Okay, you become a bear. And then we are in the material world. And then immediately we start to identify ourselves as a bear. Okay, this is what is happening. So that is this human form of life, we have got an opportunity to, as Prabhupada points out here, a chance is given to us to rectify our situation and go back to the abode of the Lord. Now, again Prabhupada here in this purport is discussing some important facts. He says, actually the living entity is originally the spiritual part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. But due to his rebellious nature, he is conditioned within material nature. Actually, why did we come to this material world? This is the answer. We were rebellious. We were so rebellious. So all those specifically the parents, they know when the children, they just, they are so adamant sometimes. They really want something and they just fight the parents, fight with the father. So father sometimes he says, okay, give him, let him experience, Sometimes we see, sometimes the child, sometimes wants to, very curious about the fan. He wants to put the finger in the fan, So, if he puts, I want, like, he was very interested. Sometimes what the father does, he switches the fan, he turns off the fan, then the speed is a little bit reduced. Then what he does, small boy, he will just try to put it on. Oh, it pains for him. Experience, he'll know, maybe I should not do this. So similarly, we were so adamant, we were in the spiritual world with the Lord, that we want to enjoy separately from Him. Okay, God is allowing us, He's fulfilling our independence. At the same time, He is very mercifully coming with us as Paramatma, residing in the heart and then always guiding us. So, an opportunity is given to us. So, we are just, never turning our face towards Krishna. We are life after life trying to enjoy the senses, getting frustrated. Again, at one point of time, we have to leave the body. Then again, we are trying in another body. Cycle is just going on and on and on. So the Lord has given us an opportunity to rectify ourselves. That's what Srila Prabhupada is pointing out. Now we see what Srila Prabhupada says. It really does not matter how these living entities or superior entities of the Supreme Lord have come in contact with material nature. Now don't so much bother about how did we fall down. It's not that we are trying to avoid to give an answer. How did we fall down? That's not the point, but the point is that now we are in a deep soup. We are inside the dark well. So somebody is throwing the rope. Catch the rope and come out. And everything will be crystal clear how you fell down later. Now the point is that there is no discussion, or don't even keep questioning who threw the rope, or throw the rope, from which, how much distance the rope came. No need of all this discussion. Rope is there, catch the rope, then come out. That is intelligence. Okay. So, also if you see, there was not some very heavy, lots and lots of explanations and so much discussions has been done by our previous acharyas about the origin of the jiva. Of course, everyone has discussed, everyone has given their comments, but the most important point is that how do we go back? That's the most important thing. Somehow we have fallen down now. How do we go back? That should be our concern. Of course, those who want to know about it, definitely we can know about. There are several opinions on that. We were all with Krishna. That's one reason, and it's again a huge topic to be discussed. But the point here from Srila Prabhupada's purport, what are we trying to discuss here, is that he's saying clearly, now it really does not matter how we came to this material world, but we should learn how to go back. And Krishna knows exactly, he says. The Supreme Personality of Godhead knows, however, how and why this actually took place. So we should be ready to accept the instructions of the Lord and try to go back home, back to Godhead. Okay. Let's go to the next verse. Here is one quote from Prabhupada's lecture. Srila Prabhupada is saying, the finger catches a nice sweet meat. It is not the business of the fingers to enjoy the sweet meat, but it gives to the mouth to go to the stomach for enjoyment. So, it is the duty of the part and parcel of God to help him enjoying. That is bhakti. So, very nice definition. One other definition of bhakti. So, the duty of we are his part and parcel. So, what should we do? We should try to give pleasure to the Lord. We should try to understand the will of the Lord and try to give pleasure to him. That is bhakti. Okay, now text 21. Karya karana kartrutve hetuf prakritiruchyate purushas sukha dukkanam bhoktrutve heturuchyate. Nature is said to be the cause of all material causes and effects, whereas the living entity is the cause of the various sufferings and enjoyments in this world. Karya karana kartrutve. So in the matter of creation, the cause and the effect. Hetuhu. Prakriti ruchyate. So Krishna says that it is that Prakriti is the cause. Purusha sukha dukkanam. But whereas the happiness and distress that we are experiencing, who is the cause? The Purusha. Bhoktritve heturuchyate. Whereas the living entity is the cause of the various sufferings and enjoyments in this world. So there are two things here. One is all the material causes and effects. The field of activity, everything is created by the Prakriti. Whereas the living entity, the Purusha, what he is creating? He is creating all the happiness and distress. How? Because of having specific desires. The jiva has got a desire, and just after he just expresses his desire, then immediately material nature provides on the order of the Supreme Lord. Material nature provides. According to our karma, we get certain bodies, and when we start to associate with the body, then we experience pain and pleasure. We experience happiness and distress. So this is how the whole interaction happens. Are you following? Okay. The different manifestations of body and senses among the living entities are due to material nature. 84 lakh different species of life, and these varieties are creations of the material nature. So I already discussed about this, that Brahma is creating the prototype, Durga is giving all the ingredients, and the jiva is brought from by the Lord's glance. Everything happens, and Shambhu carries the jiva, and then he brings it to this material world. So he says, when he is put into different bodies, he enjoys different kinds of happiness and distress. His material happiness and distress are due to his body, not to himself as he is. Yeah, when we particularly associate with a particular body, then we are experiencing happiness and distress. As such, the soul, the spirit soul, he is beyond the happiness and distress. Yesterday we saw the 8 qualities of the soul. He is not subjected to happiness and distress. But when due to ignorance, by the association of the modes, he is identifying himself with a particular body and is struggling and suffering. We also discussed about the water, rainwater. When it comes, hits the earth, then it takes different colors, right? Sometimes it is blackish, sometimes it looks yellowish, depends on the soil. Similarly, we start identifying with the different bodies, and then we think that we are this body, this Maya. And here is the reason, another reason Prabhupada is speaking, that because of the desire to lord over the material nature, he is in the material world. Why we came to the material world? Because we want to be the enjoyers, we want to lord over. So just a few days back, one of my friends was speaking, in the company, too many people are, he was saying, I'm so surprised, people really want to dominate, they want to exploit, they want to be on top. I said, there is nothing surprising in this. He said, what is there to be surprised? For the same reason we came to this material world. We want to lord over, we want to show that I am great. That is why we are here. So that is the reason we are here. That's what exactly Prabhupada is pointing out here. See what Srila Prabhupada is saying. The spiritual world is pure, but in the material world, everyone is struggling hard to acquire different kinds of pleasure for the body. It might be more clear to state that this body is the effect of the senses. The senses are instruments for gratifying desire. Now the sum total body and instrument senses are offered by the material nature, and as will be clear in the next verse, the living entity is blessed or damned with circumstances according to his past desire and activity. Yeah, we will discuss this in the next verse. Okay. According to one's desires and activities, material nature places one in various residential quarters. The being himself is a cause of his attaining such residential quarters and his attendant enjoyment or suffering. Once placed in some particular kind of body, he comes under the control of nature, because the body, being matter, acts according to the laws of nature. So it's like, once we are into the particular body, very difficult. We act according to that particular body. In a particular body, when we are in the body of a dog, we start barking. You can immediately see, when a dog gives birth, you can see the small, these puppies and others. Immediately it starts identifying with their particular body, dog, and it starts to bark. Similarly, any body we are into, we just start identifying with that body. So that's what Srila Prabhupada is pointing out here. So then we get a particular body according to whatever karma we did in the previous life, we get a particular body. Someone is born rich, and this is because of some piety he is born rich. Someone is born in a very poor man's family, again because of his previous karma. we are into different destinations. See, now Prabhupada is pointing out here in his purport. Suppose an entity is put into the body of a dog. As soon as he is put into the body of a dog, he must act like a dog. He cannot act otherwise. And if the living entity is put into the body of a hog, then he is forced to eat stool and act like a hog. So maybe wondering, how is that? How is that it's abominable? How the hog is eating the stool? That's what here, just 3 lines before we saw. Once the jiva gets into a particular body, then he is under the control of the material nature. Material nature takes control and it dictates. He just simply, the 3 threads, you have seen that picture, wherein, a person, 2 of them, one is trying to, I will take more of these stones or whatever minerals. Another fellow, then he's being pulled by 3 ropes. Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. He's completely under the modes. Very difficult to overcome. That's why also another point we can see, habits. Habits, something they say that it is like a second nature. Swabhava, they say that, very difficult to overcome. We are in a particular body and we are, even before coming to Krishna consciousness, we all of us are habituated to certain things, certain likes, certain dislikes. These are all coming from the previous lifetimes, various samskaras, various vasanas we are carrying it with us. And so difficult to overcome, not so easy, very difficult. Only possibility is by the power of bhakti. Otherwise, every one of us are stuck with certain, and each and every one of us, we are all aware of this, how much we are conditioned in certain ways. So now, Prabhupada concludes this purport with this point. So by the law of nature acts in all circumstances, he says. When we are conditioned in the body, we can't escape. Now, Prabhupada gives hope at the conclusion of the purport. He says, Dva Suparna Sayuja Sakaya. The Supreme Lord is so kind upon the living entity that he always accompanies the individual soul and in all circumstances is present as the super soul or Paramatma. So we can see nobody is going to accompany us. So we may be very much attached to our wife, our nation, our country, our pet dog or whatever that we are having. We are attached to our children. So many other attachments we have. But nothing. When we die, nobody is going to come with us. Wife cannot cross the house. She only up to the house. Then other relatives, other people, they may come up to the burial ground. After that, nobody will come with us. We have to go alone. Alone! Yes, that's the reality. Don't scare us. It's not scaring, but that's how it is. We have to face anyway. One day or other, this is going to happen. There are even some poets. There is one poet in Tamil Nadu, Kavinya Kannadasan. He has also written a song like this. Your wife will be only up to the edge of your house. She cannot cross. And then your son will come up to the Rahan and relatives. Maximum they can come up to he will come up to the streets, and the relatives, they can come up to the burial ground. After that, where are you going? Do you know where you are going? Like that, the songs are there. But sir, one good hope, Supreme Lord is there always with us. Just we have to recognize that. As Paramatma, he is coming with us. But the only thing is that we are not seeing him. He is something like that. You are traveling, somebody is sitting behind. Unless you turn and then see, you cannot see who he is. So the Lord is seated very next to us, but we are not seeing him. The moment we see him, then our life begins. So that's what Bhagavad Gita is helping us, teaching us to turn our face towards the Supreme Lord. Bahir-mukha. Now we are in the Bahir-mukha. We have turned our face away from Krishna. Okay. So that's the point. Let's go to the next verse. This verse makes clear the agency of the jiva alone is in enjoying and suffering and in living in Prakriti. The Lord also shows the cause of the jivas combining with Prakriti. Purushah Prakritisto hi bhukte Prakriti jan gunan karanam guna sangosya sadasadyo nijanmasu. Now, this verse is a very important verse. We all have to memorize this. This is because this very clearly gives us the view why we have come into some particular body, why we are suffering, What is the reason? Why God has put us into suffering? Why can't He do something about it? Everything is answered in this verse. So what this says? Purusha prakriti stohi. Purusha prakriti stohi. Prakriti sthana. He is sitting when he is in touch with the material nature. When he has taken the seat, he is seated in the material nature. Then bhungte prakriti jan gunan. What he is doing? When we are seated in a particular body, we want to enjoy. Bhungte. We want to enjoy that particular body. And then what happens? Immediately, also Prakriti Jan Gunan means this body is produced by the effect of the three modes. Prakriti, the effect of the three modes, we are getting a particular body. Now, what kind of a body is into? That is being, what is kind of body is getting? Karanam Guna Sangosya. It depends on, the cause is determined by what kind of gunas is associated with. And then, based on that, Sadasat Yoni Janmasru. Sat, he may get a Sat Yoni or he may get Asat Yoni. He may get into a pious pious womb, or he may get into an impious womb. All those things are determined by what? Karanam Guna Sangosya. So that's why sometimes we say, so you want to know about a particular person, you find out who is his friend. Then you will know what kind of a person he is. It very much depends on what kind of association we are taking. So here, this shloka very clearly establishes that. And also this shloka also establishes the point of reincarnation. Very clearly, reincarnation is already established by Krishna in the previous chapters in the Bhagavad Gita. This is another verse which is very clearly showing that we are all going to be born again. And what kind of a body we are going to get also is discussed here. Isn't it? The living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus he meets with good and evil among various species. Right? So based on what kind of association he is taking, based on that association, he is going to get a particular body. Now also Krishna in the 8th chapter discusses. That's why we have to mold our consciousness. So because the consciousness at the time of death is going to determine our next body. Now, how do we mold our consciousness? It's not a one-day job or a just 1 hour job or a fraction of second job. But it's a question of practice from day one. Or whenever we come to know about this, importance of this, from that time we have to practice. Then only our consciousness can be molded. Then only our consciousness can be purified. And without the purification of consciousness, what will happen? You may get into Asad Yoni. When we are in Asad Yoni, then we are in trouble. So, we need to be very much aware of this. Now, let's see what Prabhupada points out here. See how Srila Prabhupada begins this purport. This verse is very important for an understanding of how the living entities transmigrate from one body to another. Now, if we are not aware of this knowledge at all, then we don't give a damn to spiritual life. That's what is happening in the modern day, the youth, everyone. Why youth? It is so many kinds of people, they don't have faith at all about the transmigration. That's why it's so important for us to preach this message that, hey, watch out, what are you doing in your life? Every one of us sitting here, we're all responsible. We should preach. This is a great opportunity to show people, at least giving various examples, we should show you are going to be born again. Your next birth is in your hands. Don't mess it up. That's why Prabhupada is speaking that this is a very important verse so that people can be aware at what kind of body they are going to get into. Okay. So Prabhupada speaks about the change of dress, that in the 2nd chapter he has explained all these things. And then he also says that so under the influence of a particular material is there, we are getting a particular body. Now he also goes on to say that the different bodies, we are getting the different bodies by the association of the different modes. Now in this purport, Prabhupada, apart from the shloka speaks about how we are getting into different bodies. Now the shloka, it points out that, in Prabhupada specifically in the purport, he points out that better you be situated in the transcendental position. Take up Krishna consciousness and come out of the material association and be fixed in the transcendental position. That's what Prabhupada is pointing out. One has to rise, therefore, above the three material modes and become situated in the transcendental position. That is called Krishna consciousness. Unless one is situated in Krishna consciousness, his material consciousness will oblige him to transfer from one body to another, because he has material desires since time immemorial. So, from time immemorial, we have been suffering in this material world. So, when we are a child, what are we doing? We are just wasting a lot of our time in playing. And in the youth, attraction to opposite sex, and then we are just wasting our time in that. And then when we become a little old, so much, already from beginning, when we are not Krishna conscious, right from day one, we are very much concerned about our body. Life is meant to satisfy all the senses, and how to keep the body fit, how to keep ourselves very attractive. So much we are concerned, body, that's how the life goes on. So when we are old, what happens? Then again, so much concern about the body. Then who in this world is ever interested to know about the other world, or what is going to happen to us at the time of death? Prabhupada often quotes actually Shankara. I think Shankara points out the same thing. He says that Bhalastavat Krida Shakta, Tarunastavat Taruni Shakta, Vriddhastavat Chinte Shakta, Chinta Lagna, Paro Brahmani Kopina Lagna. So, who is interested in knowing about the abode? So, here Prabhupada is pointing out, better to change your consciousness, raise yourself to Krishna consciousness. So, that is the important point to be understood. Now, he says how the change can be effected. Prabhupada points out the purport. The best example is here. Arjuna is hearing the signs of God. So, we have to hear about the importance of Krishna consciousness from authoritative sources. The living entity, if he submits to this hearing process, will lose his long cherished desire to dominate material nature, and gradually and proportionately, as he reduces his long desire to dominate, he comes to only to enjoy spiritual happiness. In a Vedic mantra, it is said that as he becomes learned in association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he proportionately relishes his eternal blissful life. So this is the point, So from bodily consciousness, we have to change to Krishna consciousness. That is why we have the process of devotional service. So having come to the process of devotional service, we should take up this message seriously and take up the process of sadhana bhakti with a lot of enthusiasm. So that is why, what is meant by being serious in Krishna consciousness? Now let's take two scenarios. One scenario, we will see people who are completely unaware of this knowledge. So what are they doing? Everybody is only interested in this body. You can see men they are also, something we can see. It's very funny, people want to have so many different kinds of hairstyles. They go to the gym, hours and hours of practice, and then some heavy diet. You can go, there are so many advertisements, in the gym, people are so much, sometimes they get into depression also. Someone has got a big belly, someone is too fat, someone is too thin, or I do not know actually. Yes, there was this discuss about different packs. There are different beds in the body. What is all this? It is all crazy actually. Simply this body, maybe you are in this body for 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, 70 years. Okay, Kali Yuga, not even that. Maybe 50 years is a big surprise. So much you are concerned with this body, and then you want to. People are now. You can see the plastic surgeons. They are having good time. They promote so many things. We can change your nose. It is a little bit changed, pointed to this side. We'll put it little raise. You look so smart. So like there's so many sports players, cine actors. Everyone is just they are all on the bodily platform. They want to do how to keep themselves so beautiful, but they have no knowledge about the spirit soul. They have absolutely no knowledge. So it is so foolish. Then what is another point that I want to discuss? Even sometimes which should not be the case, in the community of devotees also, sometimes it's very pathetic to see, some devotees are initiated, and then even after initiation, no understanding at all. So much they are concerned going to beauty parlor, and then they are so much concerned with thousands of different kinds of dresses, all the time concerned with this. But what you have understood in your life? Nothing you have understood. This is such a serious, this Krishna consciousness is a very serious subject matter. If you are not going to take up seriously, you are going to mess up with your life. It's going to be a big trouble. So that's why, this is the glory of association of devotees, when we come in the association of devotees, that's why this process of knowledge needs to be known. Keep yourself simple, keep yourself humble, you engage, give all your energy in Krishna consciousness. What is this all the time? You have come to Krishna consciousness and you have every competition with others. Oh, he has got so much money, he has got so much dress, this and that. Nothing you have understood. Nothing, absolutely nothing you have understood. That is why we have to regularly hear, otherwise we will be in Maya. What is this? People want to have French beard. It's a French beard, and then all kinds of different kinds of hairstyle. There is one side there will be tilak, and then some very big beard, and then some strange dresses. Who are you trying to attract? What are you trying to do? So this is all completely ignorance, complete foolishness. So that is why that is why you see what is the power of association of the pure devotees. They immediately cut all the crazy attachments that we have. That's why we need to have association of very pure devotees or advanced devotees. They will not allow us to hover on the mental platform. They will not allow us to be on the bodily platform. Now, just you see, we just wear dhoti kurta, we keep ourselves shaven headed, have shika, tilak. Now, so have we made advancement? No, we are just beginning. We want to follow the path Krishna has given. There are so many different kinds of coverings, gross coverings, subtle coverings. We have to just cross over all these coverings to be completely fixed in the lotus feet of Krishna. Prabhupada, in many places, he points out that in full consciousness of me, he points out. We discussed in the earlier chapters. In full consciousness of me. So one moment of the full consciousness will elevate us. So that is why so much discussion is being given here. That we need to follow the advice of the bona fide acharyas. So that is required. Well, this cannot be forced on someone. This naturally comes by regular hearing, by seeing, by getting inspiration, by seeing the lives of the great personalities, great devotees. Then that change will happen. At the same time, we should also take initiative. When the time comes, naturally, it all should happen naturally. Sometimes we are so conditioned, naturally nothing happens. So we need the push. That's why we need the help of the devotee. The devotee, in temple, ashram, we have temple commander. So that's why we have guru. He gives us advice. He pushes us. If you see Srila Prabhupada, he pushed all his disciples beyond their capacity. So sometimes we always want to be in comfort zone. So that's not very, very much good. So we need to have some pressure. So Maharaj was Bhakti-śāstra Swami. He was explaining in one class that haram, haram say in Hindi, and then haram. Haram is haram. It's abominable. You want to be very comfortable, very peaceful life. But the wave, how the material wave is coming. It's like the tsunami, tidal wave. It's hitting us, and we are just thrown out. So that's what 84 lakh species. If we are not serious, next body is ready. Where we are going to go, we do not know. So we have to constantly speak, constantly hear. We will say, Prabhu, what you are speaking, so many things. What is your realization? That's where we want to speak. That's where we want to hear. Regularly discuss, regularly hear. At least we know where we have to go. If we do not discuss about this at all, what will happen to us? We will be happy in doing whatever that we are doing. We should actually set a very high standard. And when we set a very high standard, we may at least, what they say, if you try to shoot at the star, you may end up shooting at least, they say, some 100 feet above, something. If our goal is something on a very ground level, then we may not even hit wherever that we need to hit. Are you getting the point? So we should always, that's why, hear the topics of pure devotion. Then we may strive, beg for mercy. So then when we are in this situation of pressure in the sense when we have some task to perform in Krishna's service, we have a mission, then we will naturally turn our face towards Krishna. We'll ask for help. Krishna, please help. I want to please you. I want to please the pure devotees. I want to do something for Prabhupada. And if there is no such pressure, then Sunday I will come. I take little prasad. Okay, that is also okay. That's good. But we have to take this initiative. Then only we can come out of this powerful knot, the association with this material nature. We are just, entangled like anything. But the This is the power of the holy name, this is the power of Krishna Katha, this is the power of Krishna Prasadam. It can completely cut off all these powerful knots which otherwise is impossible to break. Okay, now let's continue with the... Okay, here is an interesting commentary by Srila Baladevi Devbhushan Prabhu. We'll just go through that. The beginningless jiva is contaminated with beginningless imprints in the form of karma. The jiva, desiring enjoyable objects because of his being an enjoyer, will take shelter of Prakriti equipped with the desirables which she offers to him until these imprints of karma are destroyed by devotee association. You see, only by devotee association can be cut off. With the destruction of impressions, he enjoys the happiness in the abode of the Lord. The Shruti says, Soshnute sarvan kaman sahabrahmana vipaschita. He attains all his desires with the omniscient Lord. That means what? The Lord is ultimately sanctioning. We may put our request, that if we have sufficient karma, it will be sanctioned. Okay. So the followers of Sankhya, taking isolated meanings of the statements, all activities are carried out by the modes. Prakriti is the doer. See, we also heard, no? Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha. Prakriti is the doer. And everything is done by Prakriti alone. We will see in 1329, we are going to see. And the gunas alone are the agent. Claim that Prakriti alone is the agent. That is an impetuous interpretation, since Prakriti, like a lump of earth or wood, is an unconscious element. If you remember, when we were discussing in the 3rd chapter as well, and also in the 5th chapter, we discussed, so for an activity to happen, what are all the 3 factors involved? We spoke about how Prakriti, the 3 modes are involved, Jiva is involved, and then the super soul, Paramatma is involved. Now, the Sankhyats, they say that everything is under the control of Prakriti. But actually we know Prakriti is actually not independent. Prakriti is under the control of super soul or the Bhagavan or the Supreme Lord. So, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna himself says, no, Maya Dakshena Prakriti Suyate sa Characharam. Don't think that this Prakriti is acting independently. So, that is what Srila Baladevi Devbhushan Prabhu is pointing out, refuting some of the arguments of the Sankhyats, for them who say that everything is Prakriti. Now we see what he says. The ability to gain knowledge, perceive, desire and act, the qualities of the agent, belong to conscious entities alone. You know, Prakriti is not conscious. It is this old Jada, it's a Jada Tattva. All the elements are not conscious, but when the Jiva is conscious. The Shruti says, Vijnanam Yajnam Tanute Karmani Tanute Vicha. The Jiva accomplishes knowledge, sacrifice and action. Shruti also says, Eshahi Drashta. The conscious Atma alone is a seer, toucher, hearer, taster, smeller, thinker, knower and agent. They maintain that Prakriti has the nature of an agent because of being the receptacle of the Jiva, and thus having superimposition of consciousness. This is not so, because the agency of Prakriti, though through proximity and imposition, is caused by the proximity of the Jiva alone. So how are we influenced by the Prakriti? Because we are expressing our desire. The Prakriti takes over, no doubt, but at the beginning, who showed the desire? We showed the desire, we express the desire. All the time, spends most of the time in the beach, swimming, or is trying to imitate dolphin. What do they call that? They go in the beach, surfing, thank you. Surfing, he wants to do surfing. Prabhupada said that there is so much desire he has for surfing, let him become a fish. You surf, whatever you want. So we showed the desire, then Prakriti takes over. It gives the body, and when we are in the body, we have to act according to that. So here he is defeating the point that it's not that completely Prakriti is everything is by the Prakriti. The Jiva also has got the responsibility. In fact, the Jiva is the initiator. And then he becomes completely, still, nothing. He's under the modes. Are you getting the point? See, another example, nice example is giving. He's explaining. It is seen that the ability of hot iron to burn is due to fire, not the iron. So one should not compare dull iron to the water that moves or the tree that bears fruit, and thus conclude that this proves Prakriti's nature as an agent, because all of this action is accomplished by the presence of Antaryami, and because this contradicts the Shruti, which is the foundation of knowledge. Memory enables one to perform Jyotishtoma for performing Swarga and meditation for bestowing liberation. This indicates that the consciousness, the experiencer, is not inert Prakriti. Prakriti is only the agent. Agency belongs to the Jiva alone. When there are statements in scripture saying that, note this point, it's a very interesting point. When there are statements in scripture saying that Prakriti is the doer, those statements are made in order to show the prominence of her functioning. Though a man carries something using his hand, we say that the hand carries an object. See, nice example. This hand carried all the way, this hand carried it up to the first floor. So that means hand carried it. Actually the person carried it, but the hand was an instrument. Similarly, because Jiva accomplishes using Prakriti, the scriptures say that Prakriti accomplishes. This is how some explain such statements. Okay, so just go to the next verse. Here is one strong statement by Prabhupada, that when we do not understand the topics of Prakriti, who is acting, and then when we say that we have to clearly know how when we are very clear the subject of Prakriti, Purusha, and then Paramatma, then we know to whom we should depend on, who is our goal of knowledge. All these things, everything becomes aware. If you are not aware of this, if you are not clear with this, then what happens? We are completely, we understand so many, we have several misconceptions, we misunderstand several statements, we follow false philosophies, false ideas, and we are covered by Maya again. See this conversation, what Prabhupada says. Very strong one, he says. Prabhupada says in lecture, and Prakriti also, I mean to say, minimizing the supply of Sattvika food. Just like nowadays it has become scarcity of grains, of milk, of sugar. It is practical experience because people are becoming more and more the modes of ignorance. Therefore, the foodstuff also. So, if you are more and more going to go into ignorance, then we will not be engaged in sacrifice. And if you are not engaged in sacrifice, what will happen? Mother nature will not reciprocate. You have to suffer more in this material world. Now, here this conversation, Prabhupada speaks. Indian man, Prabhu, he is asking Prabhupada. Vivekananda also stated, awake, arise, stop not until the goal is reached. What goal did he preach? Prabhupada, ask him, I do not know. Call Vivekananda and ask him. You are a devotee of Vivekananda. You do not know what did he mean. What kind of a devotee you are. You are asking me. You do not know. This is going on. He does not know Vivekananda and he is a devotee of Vivekananda. This is not good. You must know what Vivekananda said. What is his ultimate goal of life? You must be intelligent. Now we are speaking of Krishna and the Supreme Person. Mattaf parataram nanyat. So there is no need of Vivekananda. When the Supreme Person is speaking, accepted by all, in the Bhagavad Gita it is said that you are accepted by authorities. Vyasa, Devala, Asita, Narada. We have to accept authority. Who is accepted by authorities? So Vyasadeva, Narada, Devala, Asita, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Chaitanya, even Shankaracharya. They have accepted Krishna as the supreme authority. You take the authority statement. Don't go elsewhere. Then you will be misled. When the supreme authority is speaking, take it and apply it in life. You will be happy. Hare Krishna. So this is the point. The point is that whenever we discuss these subject matters of spiritual life, we should accept the authority of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. If you don't accept that, and if you just go by if you are bent upon the opinions of several people, then that is not good. So we are bent upon spiritual authorities, but how do we accept him as a spiritual authority? Because he accepts the authority of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. He doesn't speak something from his mind. So this is a key thing. Why this is being discussed? Because this is a key factor. Now Prabhupada gives a conclusion. How we can come out of the powerful attraction of this Prakriti? We have to hear from the scriptural authorities. We have to hear from the scriptures. And the scriptures guided by bona fide spiritual personalities. So this is the link. Okay. Having spoken of the Jiva, who is situated in the body as the experiencer of happiness and distress, the Lord now speaks of the Supreme Lord situated there as the controller. So now he spoke about the Purusha and Prakriti. Now he is now speaking about the role of Paramatma. What Paramatma is doing there? Upadrashta, text 23. Upadrashta numanta cha bharta bhokta maheshwaraha paramatmeti cha apyukto dehesmin purushah paraha. Now, Upadrashta, Anumantacha. Upadrashta means Drashta, means seer. So the Lord is the overseer. Anumanta. Also in Tamil we have this word Anumati. So see the root is from Sanskrit. Anumanta means permitter. He is the one who is permitting. So here Prabhupada is saying that, and what other qualities is being explained here? Bharta. He is the Bharta. He is the master. Very clear. This verse is again showing the super soul are not equal. He is the master, it is being said here. Cha, he is the master. Bhokta, and he is the enjoyer. And Maha Ishvaraha. Because sometimes the Jiva also is referred to as Ishvara, or sometimes he is being referred to as Parameshwara also. But he is very clearly pointed out, he is the Maha Ishvaraha. We will discuss that more. Okay. Now, Prabhupada, the purport immediately points out that the knower of the body and the supreme knower, they are not the same, they are different. That Prabhupada points out. And he points out by saying the word, giving the word para. See, para Atma, Parama Atma, which very clearly says that there is Atma and Parama Atma. There are two distinct entities. Another point here in the purport, Prabhupada is giving, the individual is Bhukta or the sustained, and the Lord is Bhokta or the maintainer. There are innumerable living entities and he is staying in them as a friend. So the Lord is maintaining all the living entities. There is no problem for him. He can maintain everyone. Now, in this shloka is also showing how the super soul is related to the soul. So what the super soul does, he is not interfering in the activities. He has to sanction. If he doesn't sanction, we cannot do anything. We become completely stagnant. So he simply is permitting, and he's taking a neutral stand. And then he is permitting, and also he is overseeing that everything is happening. That's all. He is like this. When the jiva doesn't depend on him, he is acting like this. You see, he says, Prabhupada says, as long as he is conditioned with the material energy, the Supreme Lord as his friend, the super soul stays with him just to get him to return to the spiritual energy. Just watching when this soul will turn towards me. We saw that famous example, no? In the second chapter also, Prabhupada quotes that Samana Vrikshe Purusho Nimagno. In the tree, there are two birds. One bird is just all the time and trying to enjoy the fruits of the tree. Another bird is simply watching, expecting when this other bird will turn towards me. So the Lord is patiently waiting. So now Prabhupada is pointing out that the jiva, because of the misuse of the independence, is struggling in the material world. The Lord therefore is always giving instruction from within and from without. From without he gives instructions as stated in the Bhagavad Gita. From without, how is he giving instruction? From without as Paramatma. From without as, through Bhagavad Gita. And Bhagavad Gita is being spoken by his pure devotee as Guru. Without. And from within as Paramatma. Correct? Without also Paramatma is there, but that Paramatma feature is as Supreme Personality, as the Guru. Okay. Who is intelligent? Now, Prabhupada concludes this, from within and without, he gives instruction like this. He tries to convince the living entity. See here, he tries to convince the living entity that his activities in the material field are not conducive to real happiness. The Guru does that. And Paramatma also from within is inspiring. Then he says, who is intelligent? Just give it up and turn your faith toward me. Then you will be happy. He says, thus the intelligent person who places his faith in the Paramatma or the Supreme Personality of Godhead begins to advance toward a blissful eternal life of knowledge. So we have to turn our face towards Paramatma. So that is the point being made here. Okay, now let's go to text 24. Now one knows about the Paramatma and knows about the position of the Jiva. What is the result of it? Ya evam veti purusham prakritim cha gunai saha sarvata vartamanopi nasabhuyo bijayate. Ya evam veti purusham prakritim cha gunai saha. So one who knows about the Purusha and the Prakriti and the effect of the Gunas, one who understands this philosophy concerning material nature, the living entity and the interaction of the modes of material nature. See here, ya evam veti purusham prakritim cha gunai saha. So he knows one who understands about the three modes of material nature, about the Prakriti, the material nature itself, and then Purusha, one who is aware of it, sarvata vartamanopi, then he is perfectly situated to go back to Godhead. Nasabhuyo vijayate. So it says abhijayate means he is not going to be again born. He will not take birth again regardless of his present position. Whatever may be the conditioning, if one has got this understanding, who has this proper understanding? Only devotee has this proper understanding. And such a person can transgress this material world. That is the whole point. That is the result of this knowledge. So Prabhupada says in the purport, by his personal endeavor in association with authorities, saintly persons and the spiritual master, he has to understand his position and then revert to spiritual consciousness or Krishna consciousness by understanding Bhagavad Gita as it is explained by the personality of Godhead. Then it is certain that he will never come again into this material existence. He will be transferred into the spiritual world for a blissful, eternal life of knowledge. So this is the result. What is the result? By hearing in parampara, following the instructions of the spiritual master, he gets a clear vision. What is this body? How the body is made up of? What is real knowledge? What is the goal of the knowledge? How to attain that knowledge? And I have to engage in devotional service. Very clear. Then he is eligible to go back home, back to Godhead. Okay, text 25. Now, further, what the result of the knowledge is that he goes back home, back to Godhead, he says. Now, what are the other methods to attain the super soul? That is being discussed in the next two verses, 25 and 26. Dhyanena atmani pashyanti kechid atmanam atmana anye sankhena yogena karma yogena chapare. Some perceive the super soul within themselves through meditation, others through the cultivation of knowledge, and still others through working without fruitive desires. So here, different processes of spiritual realizations are mentioned. So some, what do they do? Dhyane atmani. So they meditate, they engage in meditation. Some, what they do? They cultivate knowledge. Atmanam atmana. They cultivate sankhena yogena. Some engage in cultivation of knowledge. Some they practice karma yoga. So all the different processes are mentioned here. Now in the purport, Prabhupada speaks about two kinds of living entities. One is atheists, agnostics and skeptics who are completely against any kind of spiritual life. They are agnostics, atheists. And then comes another category who are pious people. And among the pious people, there are karma yogis, there are jnana yogis, there are dhyana yogis, there are ashtanga yogis, and whatever yogis. And bhakti yogis or bhaktas are completely a different category. They are the topmost category. Because ultimately all these other personalities also, with a tinge of bhakti, they should come to the platform of devotion. So nevertheless, Prabhupada discusses that. You can see in the purport. At the beginning, before even he discusses about Sankhyaites and others, he says that devotee is best situated in spiritual understanding. You see, this is Prabhupada, this is the pure devotee. Always very clearly emphasizes. Yes, Krishna is giving all other alternatives, but don't forget, pure devotion is the process. Bhaktyam abhijhanadi. This is Krishna's inner desire. But he is giving chance to other processes also. Okay, you want to try like this? Try. You want to follow karma yoga? Try karma yoga. You want to follow jnana path? Follow jnana. But don't forget, the easiest process which when you get into your lift, takes you at a rocket pace, it takes you to the lotus feet of Krishna. Take up to this process of bhakti is being explained. Now, here Prabhupada gives another additional information here. The Sankhya philosophers analyze this material world into 24 elements and they place the individual soul as the 25th item. When they are able to understand the nature of the individual soul to be transcendent to the material elements, they are able to understand also that above the individual soul there is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the 26th element. Thus gradually they also come to the standard of devotional service in Krishna consciousness. Remember we discussed the 24 elements. And then 25th element they say soul also, they come to put in that category. And then 26th element is super soul. And then gradually they come to that level, he says. Yeah, and the rest of the purport he speaks about Hatha Yoga and meditation, and also what they are trying to do. They also try to gradually meditate on the super soul, and they also come to higher activities. Now you can see here Prabhupada kinds of make a mockery here. I will just read the purport. He says, similarly there are, okay, I will read both the paragraphs. Here it is stated that there are some people who are pure in consciousness and who try to find out the super soul by meditation. You see, we discussed when we are speaking about the gradations of bhakti. One very important point we discussed. So the consciousness should be pure to engage in those processes. Otherwise it's not possible. See, that's what Prabhupada is mentioning here. Those who are pure in consciousness and who try to find out the super soul by meditation, and when they discover the super soul within themselves, they become transcendentally situated. Now again he says, similarly there are others who also try to understand the supreme soul by the cultivation of knowledge, and there are others who cultivate the Hatha Yoga system. Various gymnastics they do. See what Prabhupada says then. And who try to satisfy the Supreme Person of Godhead by childish activities, he says. Prabhupada just makes me know, it's just childish activities. Why are you doing all these things? And also you remember another very profound statement of Srila Prabhupada when we were studying the universal form. What Prabhupada says, this type of godless display of opulence. He makes another statement. Devotees are not so much concerned with that. Okay, now let's go to text 26. Others, though not knowing these methods, having faith in hearing the topics of the Veda, Shruti Parayanaha, are thus qualified. Now, some people, so we saw agnostics, atheists, skeptics, they are completely out of the category. There is another category of pious people who follow any of these recommended processes in the Vedas. And there are other people who are in another category who don't follow anything. They are just leading life. Simply they are, they are not so much engrossed in sinful activities, but sometimes they simply see the life of some great personalities, they hear and then they take up the process of spiritual life. So that is the category Krishna is speaking about here. Anyetvevam ajananta shrutvanyebhya upasate tepi chati tarantyeva mrityum shruti parayanaha. Again, there are those who, although not conversant in spiritual knowledge, begin to worship the Supreme Person upon hearing about Him from others. Because of their tendency to hear from authorities, they also transcend the path of birth and death. Now this is an important point here. Shruti Parayanaha. So you see again the importance of hearing is being discussed here. Simply by giving oral reception, people can come out of the material world. Taranti, they can cross over, Krishna says. And Prabhupada very much relates to this particular shloka to the people of this modern age. This verse is particularly applicable to modern society because in modern society, there is practically no education in spiritual matters. That is for sure. There is no discussion at all. Spiritual subject matter, why are you wasting your time? This is what people say. That's why in the school, in the college, no discussion. So some of the people may appear to be atheistic or agnostic or philosophical, but actually there is no knowledge of philosophy. That's the whole point. Now in this particular process, purport Prabhupada is glorifying about the process of the Hare Krishna, chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and the mercy that Lord Chaitanya has showered. So Lord Chaitanya in the Kali Yuga has introduced this very powerful process of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That all men should take advantage of hearing from realized souls and gradually become able to understand everything. The worship of the Supreme Lord will then undoubtedly take place. Lord Chaitanya has said that in this age, no one needs to change his position, but one should give up the endeavor to understand the absolute truth by speculative reasoning. So this is the best process, Krishna Prabhupada says, that to take shelter of the holy name, chant the holy names, surrender to a bona fide devotee and make progress. So all these things begins with what? The entire process begins with what? Hearing. Thank you. Shruti Parayana. It's better become Shruti Parayana. Okay, now the rest of the 8 verses, it speaks about the same subject, whatever that is being discussed. Krishna is analyzing from various angles. So this is called the vision of knowledge. So Jnana Chakshusha. One gets the proper vision, proper knowledge, then by that knowledge one can see everything. One can see the world through the eyes of knowledge. Then one will be able to act properly and not be influenced by the modes, not be influenced by misconceptions, so that he can be steadfast in his devotional service. So when we have obstacles, we have different obstacles in devotional service, but when one is properly fixed in knowledge, he can overcome those obstacles. So this Jnana Chakshusha, it's important. So from the next 8 verses we're going to discuss about that. Okay. Yavat sanjayate kinchit sattvam stavara jangamam kshetra kshetragna sanyogat tadvidhi bharatarshava. O chief of the Bharatas, know that whatever you see in existence, both the moving and the non-moving, is only a combination of the field of activities and the knower of the field. See, when now from after hearing this verse, when you walk out, you will immediately see, you will see the very nice Benz car coming. You say, oh, it is just a combination of these 5 elements. The person who is sitting is a Kshetrajna. So he starts to see like that. And of course, devotees, they are not like jnanis. They see, here is another soul who is in ignorance. He's trying to enjoy this, whatever facilities he has got. But actually, he's an eternal servant of Krishna. He's suffering in this material world. This is the vision of a devotee. Jnani may look exactly, he's a kshetra, the kshetrajna. That vision is also there. But he immediately, what the devotee does, immediately goes a step ahead. He wants to give him a book. Give a Prabhupada book and then, read the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. You are actually conditioned. You have to take shelter of Krishna and save him. So, this is the vision we get. We immediately see the combination of field of activities. Who is the knower of the field and all this. So, this is what Prabhupada is pointing out in the purport as well. Everything we see in this world, we get a vision. We don't see it as enjoys of this material world. Immediately we get a vision of how Krishna has created this world, how the fields are, the combination of the fields, the material elements are acting, how we are actually different from this body. We are not asangohi am purushaha. The jiva has got no connection whatsoever with the body. All these realizations one he gets. And then we also know already Krishna has spoken about material nature and spiritual nature. Where he speaks about it. He speaks in the 7th chapter, Bhumi Rapo Nalo Vayu, then Aparayam Mitasmanyam. Already shows what is my inferior nature and what is the superior nature. All these things Krishna has discussed. So that's what Prabhupada is discussing in the purport. You can read it peacefully. So that's what Krishna is pointing out here. We get a proper vision now. See things in proper perspective. Text 28. Samam sarveshu bhuteshu tishtantam parameshwaram vinashyats avinashyantam yah pashyati sapashyati. Now here, Krishna goes on to explain, one who sees the super soul accompanying the individual soul in all bodies. Samam sarveshu bhuteshu tishtantam parameshwaram. Tishtantam, parameshwara, or the super soul is situated equally in all the bodies. He is able to see. Who understands that neither the soul nor the super soul within the destructible body is ever destroyed actually sees. Then what he is seeing? He is seeing that the soul is never destroyed. Then the super soul is not destroyed. Vinashyatsam avinashyantam. So he sees that the soul and super soul are never destroyed. And when one sees like that, actually he sees. Ya pashyati, sa pashyati. Otherwise you don't see. No problem. The purport discusses the point. Because people have a misconception, when we die, everything is finished. Everything becomes over. Everything becomes, we have gone, we have become a dust. No, that's not the case. We have a full education that we are not going to become a dust. Dust will remain as a dust, but we will remain as a spirit soul engaged in some other body. So, is everything finished when the body is finished? No. After the destruction of the body, both the soul and the super soul exist, and they go on eternally in many various moving and non-moving forms. So this is the understanding. So a soul who is advanced, who has this vision of this knowledge, he can see that. Now you see here, this is what I discussed before. Sometimes the word Parameshwara is translated as the individual soul, because the soul is the master of the body, and after the destruction of the body, he transfers to another form. In that way, he is master. But there are others who interpret this Parameshwara to be the super soul. In either case, both the super soul and the individual soul continue. They are not destroyed. One who can see it in this way can actually see what is happening. So sometimes the soul is also referred to as Parameshwara. Why? Because at this point of time, we are owner of this body. But this also you cannot own for a long time. No, this body is gone. Okay, then here Prabhupada says that, okay, you call the soul Parameshwara, you call the super soul as Parameshwara. Either way, both of them are not destroyed. Both of them are there, but the body is destroyed. So that's the point being made. The next verse, we'll go to the next verse. So now a question, why they have to be seen equally? The soul and the super soul, both are not destroyed. Now, here it is being discussed. Samang pashyan hi sarvatra samavastitam ishwaram nahirastyatman atmanam tatoyati param gatim. One who sees the super soul equally present everywhere, in every living being, does not degrade himself by his mind. See, very interesting point. Thus he approaches a transcendental destination. Now this is an interesting thought. When one sees the presence of super soul in every living, samam pashyan hi sarvatra, everywhere, he is samavastitam ishwaram. He is seeing the presence of the super soul in all the living entity. Then by having that vision, what happens? Na hinasti. Na hinast Tyatman Atmanam. He is not Atman Atmanam. Remember hearing this word elsewhere in the Bhagavad Gita? 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says that, one should not be degraded with the mind. One should use the mind. Uddaret Atman Atmanam. Natmanam avasadayet. Atmaiva Atmane Bandhu. Atmaiva Ripuratmana. So now the thing is that with the mind one can degrade oneself, or with the mind one can upgrade. One can go above. Now he says that how a person will not get degraded when he sees the presence of the super soul everywhere. What will happen? Now you think about this. When you see the presence of super soul everywhere, how your mind will not be degraded? Can you think of it? Think. It's not so difficult. Very good. Yes, that is the point. When we see the presence of super soul everywhere, you will not engage in sinful activity. So your mind will not be the cause of degradation for you. Your mind will help you to make transcendental progress. This is the whole point. Yes, thank you very much. That's what Prabhupada is also pointing out. You see here, the purport at the end, he says, if one can see the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in every living being, he does not degrade himself by a destructive mentality, and he therefore gradually advances in this spiritual world. Advances to the spiritual world. The mind is generally addicted to sense-gratifying processes. But when the mind turns to the super soul, one becomes advanced in spiritual understanding. So this is actually, sometimes, I think, if you have taken to Krishna consciousness very seriously, right from young age, there is no loss. Bhakti is so powerful. It's a question of how much serious we are practicing. And you get this vision, when you see always, can you imagine, wherever we are going, all the time, you see, if your guru is next to us, how we will act. We'll be so careful, our dealings, whatever we speak, we'll be very, very thoughtful in everything that we are doing. Similarly, if we understand the presence of super soul is there, he's watching everything, how our dealings will be. But we are ignoring, So that's the thing, that's the bhakti means that we make progress by always remembering that the Guru and Krishna, they are always present. This is advancement. So by that advancement, he is not degraded. Okay, let's go to the next verse. So now, how does he then perform the activities? How does he, being distinct from the self being distinct from Prakriti, how he performs activities? Now this is the point. Prakrityaiva cha karmani, text 30. Prakrityaiva cha karmani kriyamanani sarvashah yapashyati tatatmanam akartaram sapashyati. One who can see that all activities are performed by the body. Prakrityaiva cha karmani. Prakriti is performing all the activities. Kriyamanani sarvasha. All the activities are performed by the body, which is created of the material nature. Yapashyati tatatmanam akartaram sapashyati. And sees that the self does, nothing actually sees. So akartaram sapashyati. So when the self is not actually performing the activity, only the body is performing the activity, actually he has got a proper vision. Now it may appear a little confusing. Just now we discussed that actually the self is the cause of the activity. Yes. The self is the cause of the activity, but the self is not performing the activity actually. So you may say, what you are saying, I was slapping someone, so I can say that I didn't do, the three modes are doing. Oh, that you are misusing the independence that is given to you. But you created the desire, but all other actions are performed by the three modes. So we can just take this example, simple example. The old days you can see these locomotive trains, In the train you can see that there will be a engine, there is a place where you can throw the coal. And then there will be a place where there will be water. And then you can see the fellow will always be, the train to move, he will be throwing the coal, and then there will be fire coming out of the, from that. And then the fire will go and then heat the water. From the water there will be steam. And then this steam will move the piston. Definitely none of us would have seen old pictures, you can see some TVs and old 1945 movies, you can see the old train moving like that. But then you can see this fire and water too are completely different, has different properties. So soul is antimatter, it's completely different. Soul is actually, the desire is coming, but the soul is not actually going and then pushing. Actually everything is done by the material elements, modes is taking. So one who can see this, he says that he is actually seeing. Are you following? Is it clear? Okay. So one in real knowledge is the actual seer. So Prabhupada is making the point in the purport. Practically speaking, the body is a machine designed by the Supreme Lord to fulfill desires, Because of desires, one is put into difficult circumstances to suffer or enjoy. The transcendental vision of the living entity, when developed, makes one separate from bodily activities. You see, one who has such a vision is an actual seer. So immediately you can see, oh, everybody is pushed by the three modes. But when one becomes a devotee and acts according to the statements of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, he is not affected by the activities of the body. Why? It does all the activities for pleasure of the Lord. So it is akarma. Remember all those discussions in the 4th chapter, karma, akarma, vikarma. So because he does not act. Otherwise, we are impelled by the modes. That's why there are two things. One is Maya, one is Krishna. If you don't take shelter of Krishna, you are again into Maya. So then you will be on the bodily platform. You will be acting according to the body. So there's a constant fight in the mind. Whether to surrender to Krishna or there is no fight sometimes. You simply surrender to Krishna. Okay. We should not be like that. We should fight. Maya, Krishna consciousness means waging war against Maya. What are we going to fight? We have to take shelter of Krishna and we have powerful weapons. What are our weapons? AK-47s, Scud missiles, no. Hare Krishna Mahamantra. We chant, we dance, we sing, we read Bhagavad Gita, we honor Prasadam. These are our weapons. Okay. Text 31. Yadha bhuta pratag bhavam ekastam anupashyati tata evacha vistaram brahma sampadyate tada. When a sensible man ceases to see different identities due to different material bodies and he sees how beings are expanded everywhere, he attains to the Brahman conception. Yes, now in this verse, Krishna is speaking about the. So in this platform, when he sees he's not this body, actually the body, the three modes are acting. I'm just an actual seer. I'm different from this body. Then he is not affected by the conditioning of this body. Then he is in the Brahman platform. Is situated in the Brahman platform. In the Prabhupada points out the purport. In the material conception of life, we find someone a demigod, someone a human being, a dog, a cat, etc. This is material vision, not actual vision. This material differentiation is due to a material conception of life. So that's why we should never identify anybody with respect to his place or it's so gross. When somebody speak in Tamil, Madargaran one town. I'm saying in Tamil. That means that here is a person who is they identify him with Madura, from Madura. There's a place called Madurai in Tamil Nadu. Or somebody, he's a Punjabi, he's a Andhraite, he's a Telugu. Devotee only sees everyone as servant of Krishna. Or another common mistake that we do, what do you say? Oh, that is a tall fellow. You may sometimes identify, but the devotee doesn't identify like that. Tall fellow, well built, or sometimes stout fellow. He's completely on material bodily platform. But a person who is in advanced, who is in Brahman conception, he has a spiritual vision. He only sees him as the eternal servant of Krishna. When one can see this, he attains spiritual vision. See like what? Not identifying with the material nature, but see him as a spirit soul. Thus, being freed from differentiations like man, animal, big, low, etc., one becomes purified in his consciousness and able to develop Krishna consciousness in his spiritual identity. How he then sees things will be explained in the next verse. Any quick example is coming from you from Bhagavatam who had such a vision. All great personalities. One quick Leela should come to your mind. Srimad Bhagavatam, I will give you a clue. 5th canto. Jadabharat, yes. So Jadabharat was not affected by the body. In fact, he gave all the instruction to King Rahugana, isn't it? Okay. Text 32. Anadhitva nirgunatvat paramatmayam adhyayah sharirastopi kaunteya nakaroti nalipyate. Thus, those with the vision of eternity can see that the imperishable soul is transcendental, eternal and beyond the modes of nature. Despite contact with the material body, O Arjuna, the soul neither does anything nor is entangled. So here it is said, Sharirastopi Kaunteya. Although he is Sharirastaha, he is situated in this body, what is happening? Anadhitvam, Nirgunatvam, Avyayah. So he has this vision, he understands that there is no beginning for the soul, he is not affected by the three modes, he is inexhaustible, he is not destructive. Then what happens? Nakaroti, he is not actually performing any activity, he is not entangled. When one has got that vision, so he says the soul neither does anything nor is entangled. Now this is called the vision of eternity. He is very clearly understands that the soul is part and parcel of the Supreme God and he is not bound or conditioned. So Prabhupada points out the qualities of that. So he says that he is not born in spite of being situated in a material body. He is transcendental and eternal. Thus he cannot be destroyed. By nature he is full of bliss. He does not engage himself in any material activities. Therefore the activities performed due to his contact with the material bodies do not entangle him. So how the devotee he sees, the devotee sees, this should be our vision, our consciousness should change like this, that I am not bothered about anything in this world. I am eternal servant of Krishna. I am not this body, I am spirit soul. I have got nothing to do with all the happiness and distress of this material world. There are so many things. Every day there are so many commotions, so many changes happening in this material world. I am not part of it. I belong to Krishna. I belong to my spiritual master. I am an eternal servant of Prabhupada and his followers. I am simply meant to give pleasure to Krishna. So let me devote all my energy, all my strength in trying to please Hari Guru Vaishnavas. This is how our consciousness should be raised. That is why we are in the association of devotees. That is the perfection of life. That is the meaning of full consciousness of Krishna. Okay. So one gets this vision. This is called as the vision of eternity. Otherwise we are stuck with the temporary vision and we are struggling, we are lamenting always. But when we have the vision of eternity, we understand that we are no more part of the suffering of this material world. So this is the point, So we are suffering in the material world not because of God. We are suffering in the material world because of our own conditioning, our own identification with the body. The Lord does not put us in suffering. In fact, somebody may question, what is the Lord doing for the suffering soul? Why there are so many problems in this material world? There are so many imperfections in the material world. Somebody may say, sir, that is why the Lord has got the spiritual world. This material world, yes, there are some, you may see some defects in the material world. So why there is defects in the material world? So that we don't want to be enjoyers of this material world. Otherwise we want to enjoy this material world and think this place to be the permanent place of enjoyment. We do not want that. So Krishna is giving us a lesson. And also it's not that Krishna is doing nothing about it. Krishna has already done a lot about it for its sufferings in the material world. First of all, he has spoken the Bhagavad Gita. He has given this transcendental knowledge. He is sleeping souls like us. He is giving us this knowledge and then he is asking us, wake up, hear from me and surrender your life to me. Krishna is giving that knowledge. And not only that, on top of it, is Paramatma is coming, is traveling with us everywhere to give us guidance. What more we expect from the Lord? So we should not be foolish in pointing fingers at the Lord. Rather, we should hear from the Bhagavad Gita, get this knowledge of real vision, get the vision of eternity and surrender and serve Krishna. That is the point. Okay. Now, Krishna is further is pointing out, text 33. Yata sarvaghatang saukshmyad akasham nopalipyate sarvatra vastito dehe tatatma nopalipyate. Now he is giving an example. Now immediately the question is raised. If the jiva is situated in the body, how is it that he is not contaminated by its qualities? Immediately he is giving an example. How the sky, due to its subtle nature, does not mix with anything, although it is all pervading. Similarly, the soul situated in Brahman vision does not mix with the body, though situated in that body. A simple analogy is given. The sky is not mixing with anything. Similarly, although the soul is situated in the body, because he is trained in the transcendental knowledge, he has come back to his constitutional position. He was in a dreamy state, now he woke up. And when we come out of the sleep, then we are engaged in our constitutional position as eternal servant of Krishna and we engage in his service. Then when we are engaged in his service, we are not touched by Maya anymore. That is the point. So same thing, Prabhupada is explaining the example. You can go through that. And he says, the air enters into water, mud, stool and whatever else is there. Still it does not mix with anything. Similarly, the living entity, even though situated in the varieties of bodies, is aloof from them due to the subtle nature. Okay, let's go to the next verse. Text 34. Yata prakasha yatyeka kritsnam lokam imam ravihi kshetram kshetri tata kritsnam prakashayati bharata. O son of Bharata, as the sun alone illuminates all the universe, so does the living entity, one within the body, illuminate the entire body by consciousness. Now another point is being discussed. Already we saw this example before. The soul seated in the body, because the soul is seated in the body, the consciousness is spread everywhere. So consciousness is the symptom of the soul. So because of the presence of the soul, we are thinking, feeling, willing. These are all the symptoms of consciousness. Now Prabhupada is pointing out here in this, by giving the example that there is consciousness and like the sun which spreads its rays, because of the presence of the soul, consciousness is spread. That's why, we don't go and hear from these modern psychologists, psychiatrists, and many people. They don't have any clear conception about consciousness. First of all, they don't accept the presence of the soul. And if you outright reject the presence of the soul, what kind of an understanding you are going to have on consciousness? So better we hear from Krishna and follow these instructions, which helps us to differentiate our position from the supreme position of the Supreme Lord, and clearly it helps us to dovetail our consciousness to the to understand about the Supreme Lord. So Prabhupada in the purpose he discusses this point. When the soul is present in the body, there is consciousness all over the body, and as soon as the soul is passed from the body, there is no more consciousness. This can be easily understood by any intelligent man. Therefore, consciousness is not a product of the combinations of matter. It is the symptom of the living entity. But the super soul, which is situated in all the bodies as a friend of the individual soul, is conscious of all bodies. That is the difference between the supreme consciousness and the individual consciousness. So, again, the Mayavadis again refute the Mayavadis idea that the super soul actually is consciousness, is aware of all the other bodies, and the consciousness of the soul is only aware of the particular body. It's being differentiated here. So one example is explaining about the soul is not attached to the material coverings or to the Prakriti, like how the ether is not touched by other elements. Similarly, another example that is given is the soul, because of the presence of the soul, it is lighting the consciousness. It is actually activating the body. Like the sun is by its light, it is spread everywhere. Now, all these things are, Krishna is summing up all this, whatever that he has spoken before, so that one can have the proper vision, proper knowledge. That's why it's called as a Jnana Chakshusha. This section is called as Jnana Chakshusha. One can have the proper vision to see things in proper perspective. Now, Prabhupada, in this particular shloka, is giving the complete conclusion. Krishna is also concluding with the topics that he has discussed. Text 35. Kshetra kshetragnayorevam antaram jnana chakshusha bhuta prakriti moksham cha ye vidur yanti te param. So what is the result of this knowledge is being discussed. Those who see with the eyes of knowledge the difference between the body and the knower of the body, and can also understand the process of liberation from bondage in material nature, attain to the supreme goal. So that's the whole point. Jnana Chakshusha. By Jnana Chakshusha, he is saying Kshetra, Kshetragnayo. Kshetra and Kshetragnya. Field of activity, the soul, the super soul, one gets the knowledge, one with the proper knowledge, one is able to see properly. Then what is happening? Bhuta Prakritir Moksham Cha. So the conditioned soul is able to disentangle himself, is able to attain liberation. He is able to attain the Paramgati. He is able to go back home, back to Godhead. The Prabhupada in the purport is pointing out the spiritual master by various instructions teaches his students to get free from the material concept of life. For instance, the Bhagavad Gita, we find Krishna instructing Arjuna to free him from materialistic consideration. So, it is not some sentimental study. By this study, we are getting clear knowledge of the realistic positions of everything. What is soul, who is Bhagavan, what is karma, what is Ishvara, what is the status of the soul leaving the body. All is understanding, clear vision we are getting. And that we get from the bona fide spiritual master who is coming in parampara like Arjuna having heard from Krishna. And Prabhupada further in this purport is driving the point that we should contemplate on the subject matter that is discussed. So all this, why all these discussions are there? All these discussions will bring us to knowledge. From ignorance, we should come to knowledge. Because why we are in this material world? Why we are repeatedly struggling in this material world? What is the cause? The cause is avidya. Avidya is what is binding us in this material world. When we come to knowledge, then we start to engage in devotional service. That's the rest of the purport. That is what Prabhupada is pointing out. I'll just read few sentences to remind us. This material world is working with the conjunction of the soul and the 24 material elements. One who can see the constitution of the whole material manifestation as a combination of the soul and material elements, and can also see the situation of the supreme soul, becomes eligible for transfer to the spiritual world. These things are meant for contemplation and for realization, and one should have a complete understanding of this chapter with the help of this spiritual master. That's why this Bhagavad Gita study is a serious study, or any spiritual study. That's why we don't lie down and then read like some comics or some newspaper. We don't read this. This is a serious subject matter. This is helping us to come out of the greatest problems of life, the greatest difficulties of life. So we should be serious enough to approach it with great devotion and submissiveness, so that we will be purified by this knowledge. We will take up the process of Krishna consciousness seriously, and we will be able to be instrument in the hands of Krishna and help others also to come out of the conditioning. So that is the subject matter here. So we should have, so that's why there is, what is this? Mamsa chakshu. These eyes are, actually what is this eye? With this eye we cannot see anything. But when we are tainted, jnana chakshu, when we get the knowledge, proper knowledge, then these eyes will be divya jnana, hriday prakashitam. Then we will be able to see things in proper perspective. So that is what we gain from this 13th chapter. Okay, same point is being discussed by the previous acharyas also. I'll just conclude with the commentary of Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur. He says, those who know the difference between the two knowers of the field, Kshetragnayo, the Jiva and Paramatma, along with the field, and also the method of liberation, moksha, from Prakriti for the living entities, such as meditation, achieve the supreme goal. Among the knowers of the field, the Jiva enjoying the qualities of the field is bound up, but is also liberated by knowledge. This is the meaning of the chapter. See, very nicely summed up. Thus ends the commentaries of the 13th chapter of the Gita for the pleasure of the devotees' minds by the mercy of the acharyas. So that's the whole point. Now, again, I will just, in very simple terms, summarize what is being discussed here. Just the whole 13th chapter. Simply we in this 13th chapter we get to know about the knowledge of Purusha, the knowledge of Kshetra, the knowledge of Kshetragna, and then the difference between the soul and the super soul, that is discussed. That is also knowledge, and also how to gain that knowledge. Krishna is very detailed. He is discussing about the process of gaining that knowledge, and then how to by that knowledge we will attain the goal of knowledge. So jnana, jnaya, jnana gamya. So all those things are also discussed, and also how we have come to this material world. What is the cause of having come to the material world? How by improper association, sadasat yoni janmashu, we are struggling in this material world. And Krishna is also giving a solution. Just by proper vision, by jnana chakshusha, we can come back to our constitutional position as eternal servant of Krishna. So thus sums up the 13th chapter. So we will stop here, and we have taken some extra time today. So if you have any questions or comments, please post it on the WhatsApp group. We can discuss. So the important verses for this chapter, please learn those 4 verses where Krishna speaks about the process of the knowledge, and also this verse of Prakriti Jai Gunaihi. How does the verse begin? Purusha Prakriti Stohi. So please learn that verse. So these are the verses for memorization, and tomorrow we will begin with the 14th chapter. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Bhagavad Gita as it is ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.